Hey everyone, it's Ryan from No Credentials Required to talk to you about one of our newest partners at BellyUpSports, SeatGeek. Yeah, live sports is great on television, but the feeling of being at the arena is a priceless experience. That's why our friends at SeatGeek are there to help you find the best tickets at the best prices. Not only can you get tickets to sporting events, but you can also get tickets to concerts, comedy shows, musicals, and more. Search for your desired event now at SeatGeek.com, enter promo code BellyUpSports at checkout, and you save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek. Life's an event. We have the tickets.
All right, guys. Part of this huge episode, this is actually the second parter of this episode, because if you guys are waiting till next week to listen to this half, thank you. But if not, still thank you regardless. But kicking off June 20th, as this episode is being played, I'm probably in El Salvador, drinking some Pilsners. So, but we're going to give you a preview of Copa America. Still going to have it there. It will also be dropped on YouTube and on GolzTV, which is a perfect segue to introduce Jose Tejas, the founder, creator, visionary. Just look up the source and just find some words of GolzTV. So, Jose, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks, bro. I appreciate it, man. Copa America, I'm ready, bro. I'm doing a ton of Copa content for the tournament this year, so this is a perfect prelude to that.
And, of course, also joining me, Kelcey Coyne of High Low Sports, who apparently we were told that we need to start reviewing food, which I wouldn't be against that. So,
look, hey, if I'm going to review food, it might as well be at a Copa America match this summer. So maybe that's what I'll be doing. Instead of going just to watch USA Uruguay, maybe I'll be eating food at Dallas Stadium.
Little footy strand review. I'll take that all day, bro. Those are good. Those are good. But I'll say this right now. Dallas doesn't, in my opinion, don't come after me, Texans. It's not the footy strand is not always the best. I think some other stadiums do it a little bit better. But either way, bro, I'll take the review.
Yeah, gotta have fun with it.
I mean, is there anything like specific that like Dallas has? Not trying to be a Dallas hater, but like, is there anything like a specific like restaurant that Dallas has besides like a Whataburger or a Chick-fil-A flex?
A flex?
Yeah.
No, I mean, no, there's some Tex-Mex spots, I guess you could say, right? I don't know if they're specific to Dallas. I mean, like Tex-Mex and barbecue are always kind of the go-to. I think that's like an easy up for anybody. And when you go to stadiums like FC Dallas or like AT&T Stadium, it's kind of reflected there, right? Some of the vendors and whatnot, they're kind of some of the Texas food staples, if you will. And maybe that's why I'm just a little bit like, maybe you can find some better stuff elsewhere. But I think if you've never been and you're not a Texan, you'll probably enjoy it. I
mean, like the Dynamo, you could get yourself a banh mi.
Oh, yeah. See, there you go. I'm sure the Q2, bro, down in Austin, I'm sure they have all kinds of like modern cuisine lined up. And when I went, they had a bunch of different stuff. I would say Dallas kind of sticks to tried and true, Texan cuisine, so to speak. But either way, bro, like when you're drinking at a game, having a good time, most things will hit unless the food is trash. So, I'm not gonna be too picky.
That's very true.
See, there's also Atlanta in all this mix, and if you guys haven't been to Atlanta yet, who cares about the food there? Just the prices in general will keep you happy.
Really?
Like, yeah. So if you've never been to Atlanta Stadium, their owner gives a discount to all the food. So it's like drinks are like $2 and refillable.
Oh, shit.
Are like $5. Okay. Hot dogs are $1.
AJ's hiding some stuff from us,
for real, man. He has not talked about that at all. I mean, either way, that stadium looks phenomenal. That stadium looks phenomenal, but I mean, if the food's that cheap, I might have to work my way down there.
Yeah, man. I mean, because I was saying, because Houston, I mean, we have Trillburger now, so I mean, like, I don't recommend getting at the stadium just because it's like $20 for a hamburger, but like, it's a pretty good hamburger. I mean, it's a smash burger, but it's just like the unique thing because obviously, Bun B, iconic Houston rapper, UGK, all that stuff. Anyways, but alriys,
there's your food review.
Food review, yeah, suck it, guy who thought he got me.
Yeah, I remember that, bro. That's crazy.
But yeah, Copa America, and it's back in the U.S. Obviously, this is kind of the, I guess, dress rehearsal for the U.S. in preparation for the 2026 FIFA World Cup that is coming in 2 years, which is insane to even think about that. But we got Copa America. The U.S. has hosted Copa America before, which was, I believe, was lived up to the hype. I think every stadium was packed. I mean, there was that one awkward moment where they played the Chilean national anthem while Uruguay. And that happened in Texas.
Yeah, of course it did. Of course it did, bro.
But obviously, looking back at that last Copa America and kind of looking into this one, what are some expectations? Maybe obviously be aware of the national anthems of the teams is probably like the first priority. But from after that, do you expect the attention to probably get even higher after this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's a doubt. I think this is going to be a great dress rehearsal for a lot of the stadiums. We were joking before this we started hitting record that Kansas City somehow got 2 stadiums. Now, mind you, both stadiums, interesting. Arrowhead being one of the oldest stadiums out there. I don't know how great that is for modern amenities, but it's a great loud stadium. But then you got Children's Mercy, who whatever. Yeah, it's where Sporting Kansas plays. It's a really beautiful looking stadium, but I'm tired of it. But no, I think it's yes, it'll bring eyes to it, but I think this is going to be like really a big opportunity for U.S. men's national team players, especially. I'm going to just pick on them right now, based off of recent results. And Berhalter in particular, to see how he can do in a tournament where they're hosting. It's going to be very interesting to see what he does there. Obviously, there's a lot more storylines, but that's just the one that I think comes from an American audience. Is you're going to kind of get a real eye on what is to be expected in these type of tournaments, and then how much are American fans really going to care? Is it going to be like U.S. cricket, where everybody's going crazy for right now, or is it going to be like the U.S. men's national team in 1993?
That's a good point, man. That's a good point. I actually think the most pressure by far, and in terms of things that we'll all be watching, it's got to be on Berhalter, right? I mean, getting smacked up 5-1 by Colombia is obviously it's a friendly. People read, I think, a little bit too much into that. I think those who've been following the USMNT for a long time understand that Berhalter has never punched above his weight, like basically ever. I think in the World Cup is the only time he netted a result over a top 20 side. That was Iran. Outside of that, he's kind of just been either slapped up by Colombia or others that are kind of in that upper echelon, FIFA ranking wise. So that's like a major, major thing. But I think the one thing nobody's really talking about yet, and we saw it in the Colombia game, bro. Everyone thought that I think U.S. were going to have some major home field advantage for this Copa America and for the World Cup. I actually think we're going to see a lot of these games where they're completely outnumbered fan wise. And Colombia, I mean, like I saw people who were going to the game on the timeline, tweeting out that, bro, we're maybe 10% of all fans here. Like, it's insane how many Colombia supporters there are. I would say, and I heard, Jack from Deadball TV talk about this. I think Bolivia might be the only game USA play in the group stages where they're not going to be outnumbered, mainly because Bolivia just doesn't travel that well. But outside of that, Uruguay will be there in full force. And Panama will be there in full force. We saw that in the Gold Cup. So, yeah, man, I think that's going to be an interesting storyline to pay attention to because it might affect how some of these games go.
Yeah, you mentioned that with Uruguay because I remember when I went to go watch the Real Madrid Atletico Madrid watch party, and obviously, Diego Forlan, legend, icon for Uruguay. And that was probably the first time I ever saw like a gathering of Uruguayans. I was like, I didn't even know you guys existed here. So I mean, it's insane. But that's what this game does. It brings out all the fans, and I agree. You're gonna see because 2019 Gold Cup final in Chicago. I was there. I was that little blotch of white at the stadium. So not even just one little corner in the stadium that back in my American Outlaw days. But obviously when I look back at that last Copa America that the US hosted, we got to see the lovable darlings of Venezuela that we all thought, man, this is the rise of a potential golden generation. Well, we were wrong, but it was an exciting country to watch, see how far they went into the tournament. We knew they weren't going to beat Argentina, but a great story nonetheless. And when you look at this tournament, we'll start with Jose. What is that country that you think is going to be the new lovable darlings for Copa America?
I don't know how lovable they are, but I will say that I think the team that I'm going to be most excited to tune into outside of US or Mexico, just because of those are my two nationalities and heritage-wise, I really think Ecuador will have something to say in Group B. I feel like Ecuador it's not even just like this version of this country's team. I think it's even the 2022 World Cup. I feel like they were not afraid to push forward and score goals in some of these one-off national tournaments to cement the fact that they are actually a really great country out of this confederation. I feel like when I was watching Valencia score goals in the 2022 World Cup, it took me back a little bit because of who that player is, but it also pleasantly surprised me, right? That Ecuador is not going to be, even though within their own confederation, it may sometimes feel like they don't grab headlines because you have the likes of Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, Chile has been to back-to-back finals for the Copa America before. And then you have some of these newer teams that are now, I think they've even pulled in some MLS talent, but guys like Venezuela, guys like Paraguay, who are going to be, competitive in their own right. Those countries are now starting to kind of pop up and be a little more relevant as well. So I feel like Ecuador sometimes kind of gets lost in the mix and isn't talked about as much. But for that reason, I think they're going to have something to say. They're not my dark horse to like go really far and upset some teams. I think that it'll still be kind of difficult for them. But in this group, I would say it's got to be them. If not, I mean, Jamaica, it's hard to have. It's really. I wanted to pick them for this question, but
there's
really...
a specific player that's going to be with Jamaica that I don't think anybody's going to be liking. So
yeah, I don't think they're going to be super likable. But I don't know, man. Ecuador to me, little bit of that darling, effect, kind of, how teams, how fans really kind of want to see them. And I think if they made somewhat of a deep run outside of the groups, nobody would be mad at it. So I'm going to pick Ecuador.
Okay. I mean, great pick. I do agree with that. Ecuador has been a lot of fun going back to the last World Cup. So that's a really good pick. Kelcey, who you got?
Yeah, so I'm actually was originally going to pick Ecuador, so I'm going to go and pivot from that to another team you mentioned.
It's okay.
Jose.
I was going to pick Ecuador too. So, I mean,
I'm glad I went first.
Yeah, the backup was Venezuela, but we're not going to go there either. We're not going to pick back-to-back darlings like that. We're going to go actually to another team you mentioned, Jose, and that's Paraguay.
Mm-hmm.
I think Paraguay is one of those teams you just look at and especially in the group with Brazil, obviously top heavy, Costa Rica, Colombia. You have an opportunity in that group if you can to upset Colombia, upset Costa Rica, technically upset them. But you also have a chance to make a name for yourself if you're Paraguay. You mentioned they've been stepping up a lot in especially CONMEBOL and how they've been performing. And, they just lost 1-0 to Colombia. That's not easy to do, as we just watched. You can easily get 5 put on you in a hurry. And Paraguay has a strong enough defense to handle anybody in this group, except for maybe Brazil. But it's whether their attackers can show up. And I think if they can score, if they can attack, I think it's a team that you would love to watch. And again, I don't know if I think I'm with Jose on this one. I don't know if I can go and say they're going to make a long run, but I think it's going to be a team that people can support and get behind and have fun with. It's always interesting to watch these minnows, if you will, make an impact in these bigger stages.
I agree. Actually, that's a great pick, Kelcey. I will say too, that first game in Houston, when they have to play Colombia, if they, for whatever reason, just come out swinging, and I'm not going to say pull off a major upset, but just make that game more competitive than any of us think they can, it sets up a really interesting finale to that group because they have Costa Rica at the end. I think they'll lose to Brazil, but that first game against Colombia and Houston is going to be massive. Yeah,
all it takes is a good defensive stand, and this team has proven they can do it, especially against that Colombian team in the qualification match they just had against them. I guess that was in the last year, so I guess it wasn't recent, but 6 months ago. I mean, that's still impressive to do. Colombia has been on a 22-game unbeaten streak, and you can hold them to 1-0 and what they can do. If they can do something in game one, just a draw. All we're asking for is a draw here. That sets them up real well in that group to be able to sneak in that second place spot.
Great.
Yeah, and I mean, I think any Paraguayan would love to see this team back in a competitive form, back from the days of Jose Cardozo and Paulo da Silva. So I'm sure Liga MX fans can definitely know those names.
100%.
Man, you know what? I'm just gonna piggyback on Ecuador, man. This team, it's just the player. It's the young core players that they have, man. A lot of them doing really good things in Europe. Obviously, all eyes are gonna be on what's the name of left back? Estupiñán. I don't know why. I love his last name. But Estupiñán, man, that all eyes are gonna be on him. He's gonna be definitely a fun player to watch, and it's always crazy because we're talking about a fullback. He could do a lot in the attack as well. And obviously got the fullback bias coming in on this one, but he's definitely been a fun player to watch. Hopefully he can stay healthy. That's something that he's been battling, at least recently, has been his health. But I mean, when he's able to play with that solid young core of Ecuadorians, I think it's going to be a very fun team to watch for sure in this tournament. Obviously we got Louisville Darlings, but the pressure, where is the pressure coming from? Obviously, U.S. men's national team has their own pressure, but who is another country that you think is going to get some pressure to have a good tournament here? And we'll start things with Kelcey.
I mean, this might be the lowest hanging fruit, not named the U.S. men's national team, but I'm going to go with Mexico. I don't think there's any doubt in anybody's mind. This team has probably the most pressure out of anybody. It's not looking good right now for Mexico. Everything they're doing on the field has not been pretty. You've been wiped out by teams you probably shouldn't be wiped out by. You don't even look competitive in half of your matches right now, and they're friendlies. We're talking friendlies here. We're not talking competitive matches, and it doesn't look good. I mean, even in CONCACAF play, they don't look good in CONCACAF play, and that's, again, CONCACAF still isn't the level that everybody would love it to be outside of 3, maybe 4 teams there. And Mexico doesn't look good in it. And that's just, you never want to see something like that if you're a Mexican fan who is just ready for this team to explode. You have such a strong, young, talented player pool. Why aren't you using them? It feels very reminiscent of the days where they would just pull from Club America. And that was your national team, was 10 of the starting 11 from Club America. But this isn't it feels similar. It's not, but it still feels in that ilk. And that's what's scary for a lot of Mexican fans who have a lot of hope for this young team. And
it's insane. It's insane, honestly, man. Like, I don't know what Santiago Jimenez did. I have no idea. But I will say there is at least something to build off of that 3-2 loss to Brazil. Yes, we saw one Endrick him. That's the only thing I took away from that. But I mean, still props to Mexico. They made it a 2-2 match, being down 2-0 and to tie it up. I mean, that's still impressive to say the least. Obviously, there's some. I'm not gonna say full faith, but there is some faith in Jimmy Lozano, and I think it's just because of the name. But I mean, I will say Mexican Federation did something that we didn't expect to happen, which is they moved away from the old guard. We didn't see Memo Ochoa. We're not seeing the names that we usually expect to see. So at least there's, I think, some hope. But yes, the pressure is completely on for Mexico. I don't know why a Salvadorian and American are trying to talk about the pressure of Mexico, because we literally have a Mexican in this conversation. So
I mean, bro, there's a ton of pressure. I will piggyback on, and that was going to be my low hanging fruit pick too, right? I think Mexico, bro, it's such a systemic issue that is kind of in place right now with this federation, with this team. Everybody can see it, man. It's like, I feel like nothing will really fix itself with Mexico until they kind of blow everything up from the ground up and rebuild. I just firmly believe that way. I don't think Jimmy Lozano is the answer. I mean, yeah, they've kind of gone away from some of the old heads, like you said, but it's even with some of the new exciting talent that they have, it's like I'm not super inspired by them. Santi didn't play against Uruguay, and that is what it is. I thought he should have gotten some minutes in that 4-0 loss, right? Because I think that with where he is right now in the national team and his standing, and the fact that there's no real competition for that number 9 spot, he should be getting as many reps to get comfortable as possible. But even beyond that, right? He did play against Brazil, and sure, Mexican fans will be like, oh, we only lost 3-2 to Brazil, who had the second best odds to win Copa America. True, but if you look historically at that matchup, Mexico tend to match up against Brazil fairly well for the most part. Like, I can't think of very many games in recent tournament history where Brazil has wiped the floor with Mexico. Guillermo Ochoa has had massive saves and performances, and that's helped Mexico a lot. But in some of these big tournaments, I feel like we show up against Brazil. Why can't we do that against Uruguay? Why can't we do that against the teams that are going to be in our group? I'm willing to bet Ecuador is going to give us a very difficult time. Even the likes of Venezuela and Jamaica will create a ton of problems. And I don't know. I feel like we're going to get very up and down performances. It doesn't bode well for fan sentiment. I feel like the biggest supporters at this point of Mexico right now are the Mexican Americans, the ones who are on this side of the border and are filling up the stadiums and buying the kits and, driving all the revenue for the federation. I don't know, man. I think it's going to be, I'm telling everybody right now, I think it's a W if Mexico does not get grouped. If they make it out and they get to the knockout stages, W. Lozano should just keep going and, figure out a way to kind of keep building on what they're doing. But I don't see it. I think, I'll be honest, I really think that Mexico isn't going to make it out of the group stages.
Yeah, I love how you mentioned the Mexican Americans because they are definitely the big contributors. But it's funny because they're the phrase that's constantly being said, and this even goes to like even being a Salvadoran American myself is in Spanish it's no son de aquí, no son de allá, which means I'm not from here, but I'm also not from there either. So
Yeah.
it's always a funny thing where it's like the best quote is actually from the Selena movie, which is like we got to prove to the Mexicans that we're Mexican, but then prove to the Americans that we're American. It's exhausting, and
Bro, it's facts. With my own family, that's fucking facts. Like, if I go down to Mexico, I gotta like literally like try to, like blend right in. Otherwise, they're like, oh, look how Americanized he is. Look how, whatever. And it's like, that's fine. I think we could deal with that, right? But that's who's keeping right now the Federation paid, and everything that's happening, I believe won't really change until that aspect changes. But who knows how long that'll take.
that is true, man. I think the team that I think is going to have a lot of pressure, besides Mexico, I think there's a ton of pressure. But I will say Canada, and the reason why I say Canada, all right, Canada. When are we going to see this generation of players? That you guys keep flexing Alphonso Davies and flexing Jonathan David, in front of us, and it's like, look what we have, but nothing has come from it. There hasn't been any Gold Cup success. Not even a final appearance. A final appearance in the Nations League, but aside from that, still close but no cigar, if you will, for Canada. And once again, it's all from the hype of Alphonso Davies. And then on the other side, you got Jesse Marsh, the American who felt he was mistreated. I don't know. I don't know why I'm being a dick to Jesse Marsh right now, but quote unquote, was treated fairly, which I still can't believe that Greg Berhalter still got the job anyways. But Jesse Marsh, this guy is solid. He's the big sexy name that everyone keeps thinking of. But if you really look at his recent track record, it doesn't look good. He got fired by RB Leipzig and then got fired by Leeds United. And hadn't gotten a job in a while since till he took the Canada job. So I think both those parties have a ton of pressure, especially how they performed in their friendly, to do something in this tournament. And you're in a group that I would tell you is probably not fair. You are probably one of the few teams that, besides Costa Rica, that has to be playing three CONMEBOL teams. And of all the three, it's Argentina, Peru, who can be a little frisky in these tournaments, and Chile, who also has something to prove as well. So you're in a very tough group. I actually deem this the group of death. And you gotta do something to at least have the soccer world, not just your country, but the soccer world, to believe that you're going to be a threat.
I'm gonna say it right now. Canada's not getting out the hood alive, bro. They're really not. Like, it's not happening. And this is not even a slight to Jesse Marsh. I don't see it. Like you said, group of death, most likely. Chile have a lot to prove and have a manager with Careca that will, I think, make this tournament and that group very, very interesting. Has a strong CV and resume, and most notably with Argentina prior to Chile. Yeah, man, and Peru's a wild card. So I just think Canada has a lot of pressure, match in and match out. It's not going to be on Jesse Marsh if they don't succeed. It won't be on him. I think he's still he hasn't even gotten his feet wet in the role, man. You got to give him time. But I think that Canada, yeah, bro. If they make it out, prove me wrong, Canadians call that a huge dub. You should feel like you won the tournament because it's probably as far as you're going to get.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. It's tough. I mean, just in the group you're getting drawn into to begin with. Then you add in the fact that you're relying on a bunch of 22 to 25-year-olds for the most part, who, looking down the line, none of them have really cracked 50 appearances. And then you have Jonathan Azoria. And let's be honest, maybe not the guy I'm going to put my hopes on if I'm a Canadian fan. That's for sure, unless he's trying to just make somebody mad, in which case, all right, fair enough. Kyle Larin.
The man likes to throw hands. I will say that.
Yeah, exactly. But Kyle Larin is, that's the striker you're probably going to be relying on as well. Has he really panned out? No, but he does play well for Canada. But you look at that, then you add in Richie Larea, who seems to go absent in a lot of different appearances in tournaments. He's just like, he does well in the group stage for minnows, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, it's going up against a team that they should beat, but it's, close in ranking, like you mentioned with Berhalter earlier, where he doesn't beat anybody inside the top 20. Well, Richie Larea doesn't show up to anybody inside the top 25, really. And that's being kind. Maybe it's in the top 50. But yeah, there's a lot of questions here. There's a lot of young players on this team that if Jesse Marsh can figure out a way to make them work, like maybe he did in his initial stages with Red Bull, sure. But if he doesn't, that's a team that needs to be very careful. I agree, Hector. That's a scary. That's a team that's ready for getting imploded by 2026.
Exactly, and we just mentioned the 3 host nations for the World Cup. So, like I said, there's a ton of pressure on U.S., but Mexico and Canada, I think there's definitely a lot of pressure that because for some of us, we need to see them perform because you guys got the automatic spot. Like, let that sink in for Canada specifically. Like, the only way you were able to get into the World Cup, besides last year where you just outright won the qualifiers, but the other way was by just hosting the country. So,
I mean, you look at it, bro. I went to the play-in game when Canada played Trinidad Tobago, right, to get into Copa America, and it was. I mean, I'll be honest, bro. Much of the game, I was wondering when Canada was going to turn it on. Right, not just Davey, even Davies, right? Like he was making some blistering runs. They couldn't really find him. Tajon Buchanan looked like he was out of sorts all the way around. Like just players running into each other. It didn't seem fluid. They really beat Trinidad because they were the better team on paper. They had the better individuals on paper. But that's really it. Trinidad had a number of opportunities to like equalize or to even go ahead in the game, and it felt like. I don't know. It felt like Canada will struggle against better teams, and we've seen it already. The 0-0 draw against France today was like cool. It was a friendly. A lot of those guys were being rotated by Didier Deschamps, and so I think if it was a full blown like Copa America group stage or a World Cup group stage match, I think a rampant France team would kind of walk all over them. Yeah, man, it's going to be tough for them. It's going to be tough. I was going to say too, man, if we're picking a team outside of CONCACAF who has a lot of pressure, I think it's Brazil. In my opinion, I think Brazil has a lot to prove. Their biggest nation rival has gone on to beat them in the last Copa America final, has gone on to win a World Cup, and it's probably not going to have any pressure on them really to deliver another trophy. In fact, Argentina might take their foot off the gas. I don't think Messi will, but I think that complacency is a thing, and they've been winning quite a bit, so we might see a step back there, and that'll be fine. The fans won't mind that. But with Brazil, with the likes of Endrick and all of this new refreshing talent and all of the stars that were already there and the comparisons that they get to the previous generation, right? The Ronaldinho, the Ronaldo, the Kaká era, I think that there's massive pressure on Brazil, who haven't been to a final since 2019? Half a decade now, to deliver something. Yep. So we'll see.
Shout out to my adopted son Rodrigo for being the number 10. So
a lot of pressure, bro. A lot of pressure, number 10. That's a hell of a number.
Lots of pressure. I believe in it.
And by the way, adding one more team in this list, I know we've talked about them a couple of times and like the more positive nature of what they've done, but Colombia. And I think it's because they've had a 22-game unbeaten streak going into this. They walk into this group as probably the odds-on favorite of being number 2, arguably number 1 if they can really scrape out. But as I even said when I was talking about Paraguay, it's like they come in and sneak one against Colombia. Colombian fans, first of all, they will just lay it out on you. They will give you every bit of stick they could possibly give you if you cannot beat Paraguay day one. And who knows what that does to Colombian players. We've seen what's happened before when their fans turn on the Colombian national team. It doesn't really go well for the team in that tournament and for the next 4 or 5 years after that. So it's a situation where you look at it, and if you're Colombia, you got to win. You got to win. You got to at least get out of there number 2 out of the group stage, and you got to win 1-2 games in the knockouts. I mean, you can't just go out without really swinging, if you will. They got a lot to swing, so they got to do something important there. But I think they have also, and it's ironic that we're sticking in Group D with the alternative pressure here for non-CONCACAF teams.
Yeah, it's gonna be wild. If Colombia upset Brazil, like if Brazil goes into the knockout rounds as the second seed, I don't know. It's gonna be wild. We'll see what happens.
Tough journey. Especially if Group C goes the way it goes, you're talking about a potential Uruguay Brazil quarterfinal. So So
or for an
that's
American fan, if you get lucky, it's an American-Brazilian matchup there. And is that even better? No.
all right. So before we get to the group round group predictions, I from each one of you, dark horse team and player to watch. So we'll start with Jose.
Oh man. Dark horse team, Chile. I say Chile because of Gareca. And I think that manager knows how to approach tournaments. I think Chile has also a little bit of something to prove, just considering their history in this competition. And nobody wants to see another Argentina-Chile final. Or really, maybe they do. Who knows? It's been some time. But I think that, seeing those two, CONMEBOL powerhouses in the same group, Chile will be tested early on, which I think if the test goes positively for them, it serves as like a springboard, right? Something that they can actually use to get the experience they need and maybe some of the confidence they need to approach the knockout rounds accordingly. So they like, again, they have a manager who knows how to play tournaments like this. They have a history in this competition. They haven't been talked about in quite some time, which makes me feel like they're going to be slept on quite a bit. I do think Chile are if I had to pick a dark horse, and again, a dark horse for me isn't someone who's a favorite. I think Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, Colombia, like all those guys to me are teams that I would consider somewhat favorites. You could throw maybe a little bit of Ecuador in the mix, but I'm just gonna stick with Chile.
Yeah.
And what was the second one, by the way? Sorry.
Player to watch.
Player to watch, Endrick, and not just because he's like the talk of the town right now. I want to see if he lives up to the hype. That is my thing. I think Endrick has benefited extremely well from some of the friendlies he's played to kick off his international career. I love that. That's awesome. We've seen other players do that though, and at times not live up to the hype. Moving forward, there will be a lot of pressure on him this coming season with his new club, Real Madrid. They've won everything without him. He'll have to find his place in that star-studded lineup. And this is kind of a dress rehearsal for that. This is a very stacked Brazil attack. And
that does feature plenty of Real Madrid players.
Exactly. He'll have to figure out where he fits in. And so I think there's going to be a lot of self-inflicted pressure from him, from his family, from his entourage. He'll carry himself with the highest bar. But if he doesn't live up to some of the hype that's already kind of going around, I just wonder what that does for that young player's mentality. So that's in my opinion that player to watch.
That is a good one. Kelcey.
Yeah. So this is tough because I do want it for a dark horse. Like everybody that I would like to pick is technically considered a favorite, which is ironic because even Mexico and the U.S. are listed as top 5 favorites, which is crazy to consider, at least betting odds wise. With that in mind, we'll go Venezuela. Venezuela is my dark horse here. And I look down at that group. Why not? And then your matchup there, it's going to be unfortunate in the next round, no matter what you get. If you end up number 1 in Group B, but if you can do that, easily Venezuela can match up potentially with, as you mentioned, Chile or Peru, Canada, Argentina if they stumble. Any one of those teams, I think I'd still give the edge to Venezuela in a lot of those situations, just based off of the way they play. It's not going to be easy for Canada to defend them. They have the speed to defend them, but they do have the skill to defend them, not necessarily. The rest of those teams, do they have the speed to contend with the Venezuela? I don't know. And then, so I have them potentially being that dark horse to make a run. And if they do, crown me, I guess. I don't know what else to say. That would be an insane run if they can pull it off. But, obviously my other option there was Uruguay, but there's no chance they're considered the dark horse by anybody. So with that in mind, though, I'm going to go my player to watch. I'm going to go with we're gonna say Darwin. I think
of course the Liverpool fan picks Darwin Nunez.
Yeah, but it's obvious. It's like Diego Forlan in the old days. Like this is where he made his stand. This is where he made his moment, was in what he did in Copa America, and that's what got him propelled forward in his career and why he's known as one of the greatest players to play in that era. And Darwin is showing signs. As a Liverpool fan, I can easily tell you he can be pulled at any point in time on a match day, and you might get better, but you definitely don't get worse. And that's not necessarily a great thing if you're Darwin. And can he make that next step in this tournament where he's playing against a lot of defenders that honestly, he can take advantage of with his skill set. It doesn't take much. He's big, he's strong, he's fast. He has skills on the ball. Knows where the goal is. There's no reason he shouldn't have a great performance. He's already been doing well just in the run up to this tournament. So yeah, I'm gonna say Darwin is my player to watch.
Hey, that's like a great shout too, because if Darwin actually turns up in this tournament, right? Let's say he ends up becoming like the guy during the group stages and the run up to maybe the final. If Uruguay goes far and he's kind of their leading goal scorer and the guy that they can lean upon in their attack, I think there's a lot of confidence you take from that into the Liverpool play where he's just been missing it. I don't think he's bad. Actually, I think his intangibles are phenomenal. I would take him, at any either of my teams in a heartbeat, Barcelona or Arsenal. Because I think the raw skill set is there. I know
for a fact Edward would take him in a heartbeat. That's been his
I would take him at Barca in a heartbeat, but it's really just because, like, you see how you can already see, for those who are knowledgeable, you can see how good he is on paper, right? Yeah. You tell yourself, imagine how good he's going to be when the mentally starts clicking, he starts scoring consistently week in and week out. The guy's going to be a machine. So I don't know. I think if he does turn up in this tournament, there's a lot of confidence he could take from it into club play.
Yeah, and I think you hit on something important there with Darwin, is that it's his mentality. It's how much he focuses day in and day out. And I think that's where he's lacked at Liverpool, where it is as simple as it's a one touch into the goal and you're hitting it 7 yards wide. But there's moments where in one of the friendlies they just had, it was a 1-2 give and go, beautiful give and go on a one touch between two defenders back to goal. And then he turns and he's there to finish the goal. It's simple things like that. He's a great evolution of what was a number 9 and what can be a number 9 now. And it's that combination that I think would set him apart from somebody, but he just mentally isn't checked in at all times. And if he can do that in this type of a tournament where it's grueling, it's one game every 3 to 5 days. If you can do that, and even if they don't make it to the finals, even if they just have a run into the group stages and it looks good, that's something to build a lot of confidence.
Agreed.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just gonna say Chile. I mean, obviously they're chomping at the bit at this point. They want to be that generation that puts Chile back on the map. Obviously, missed out on the World Cup. I think the last 2 World Cups actually they missed out on. So Chile wants to get back into the conversation, especially a team that has had success in Copa America as well. The question is, like, do they have that crop of players that, obviously we haven't seen since the names of like Arturo Vidal and Claudio Bravo, and so on, and so Alexis Sanchez. Do we see a player that could come and rise to the top to put Chile back on the map? But they have the right coach, and I think that Chile is going to be a big dark horse in this tournament. Probably could spoil some people's plans for some Copa America success. So I do agree with Jose with picking Chile. And my player to watch, I am going to go to Uruguay, and it is my other adopted son, Federico Valverde. You're talking about Darwin Núñez having to be a big step up. Well, he's got to get some passes coming his way. Obviously, just got down to number 8 for Real Madrid from Toni Kroos. That's a big person that wants to give him that number. So can he live up to that hype? We've seen him perform very well. Kid's a dog. But now it's time to see him become that creative player that Toni Kroos apparently sees in him. So I definitely say that Valverde. And I think that this is a big tournament for Uruguay as well. I think there's a ton of pressure for Uruguay. I think that you became this soccer nation that is so tiny, but somehow shits out a ton of fucking soccer legends. That how are you not performing at some point? Luis Suarez and Edison Cavani are now days of past. Now we need to see what this next generation of Uruguayan players, which is a lot of talented players that are coming out of Uruguay, can they get it together and make a run out of it?
I think so, bro. I mean, I'll be honest. Like, look at that game against Mexico. The scariest part where they were missing Fede Valverde and Ronald Araujo, right? The monster of a center back from Barcelona. So you missed 2 of the best players in the world in that team, and they still, run all over Mexico 4-0. You imagine what the game could have been. I think Uruguay is going to be a monster of a team to watch out for in this tournament.
Yeah. And how have people continued to sleep on Valverde at this point in time? That's my.
I think it's just hate. It's just hate at this point.
This was like the Lozano
the disrespect
Diarra
to my
days.
son.
Yeah, like this feels like one of the DR brothers, like when they were just fantastic, bossing midfields. Valverde is the linchpin for a team that just won the Champions League final.
Yeah, it's crazy,
You
bro.
can't sleep on that. Like that ability. Like how are people just? Yes, Tony Cruz obviously fantastic in midfield, but Valverde is the dude. That is the engine that makes it all run. And it's like even when you look at it on the national team side, there's no reason that he keeps needing to be overlooked. People just it's crazy to me that he keeps getting overlooked.
Yeah, I will say this. In the World Cup, Uruguay obviously, didn't impress as much as a lot of us thought they would. I think a lot of that came down to the manager. I think under Bielsa, this run that Uruguay is on, qualifying wise, and even on some of the friendlies leading up to this tournament, Fetty has looked different, I will say. A lot of the team has, actually. The way they kind of move the ball to the midfield, the different types of attack that we've seen, whether it's been a little more direct or kind of slow in the buildup. And I will say this. I don't see Valverde chasing the ball as much as I used to, let's say a couple of years ago when they were kind of in that World Cup and Uruguay looked a little bit lost. I think that, like I said, under this managers make a massive difference. They really do. I think Valverde seems a little more settled. I think a lot of the team does, like Darwin included. So they should have a big tournament. We could probably say it's another team that has a lot of pressure on them.
Yeah, they look a lot more free, a lot more dynamic in the way they build it. As I mentioned, you saw Darwin 1-2s easy. It was easy between two defenders. Like it was just no big deal. And then, Valverde, like you said, it almost is like now he feels the freedom. He doesn't have to chase like he had to, because before he was the dude in midfield at that point in time. Like nobody else in that midfield was playing well in the last World Cup. And so you see that now he's like, oh, wait, we got 2-3 guys that I can rely on next to me. And we don't have to worry about it if we get it to our forward of him just immediately losing the ball like he was in that previous World Cup.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, I do think that's important too.
All right. So we talked about dark horses and team and a player to watch. All right. Predictions. So we're going to look at the groups. Group A, we have Argentina, Peru, Chile, Canada. I dubbed this group the group of death. I think obviously number one seems pretty clear to me, but I think whoever gets that second spot can cause some friction in this tournament, especially depending on who they face off in Group B, which I feel like could be a favorable matchup regardless of who wins Group B. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick by pick. Argentina obviously is going to be, I think, the one that wins the group outright. I think it's expected. They're familiar with Peru and Chile. I actually, and Canada, I'm sorry, but Canada is getting grouped. I might see them get one draw, but aside from that, they're getting grouped out of here. But Argentina is winning this group, and my team to finish in second, I mentioned them as a dark horse. It's going to be Chile.
Exact same for me.
I'm going to spice it up a little bit here. I'm going to say Jesse Marsch pulls off a miracle and gets him through on goal difference.
What a shout. What a shout. Jesse Marsch stands in the chat are going nuts. I think if Canada does, bro, I will hold my hands up and say this was an L take. Maybe he can. I don't dislike Jesse Marsch, but I don't know.
Bro, you're going to make me hate Greg Berhalter more, which I didn't even think is possible.
I'm already there. Don't worry. I'm already carrying the hate torch for Greg Berhalter for everybody. We're good there. But no, let me be clear. They're not going to win the group, but they're very much going to finish second in the group. I still have Argentina winning. I think that is just locked in as firm until proven otherwise, unless there's a disaster, which I don't even want to speak into existence. Because who knows? I don't want to be told I need to go back to food making videos again. Okay. Like I've been there once, been there twice. I don't need a third time. I might just actually start doing it at that point in time.
It's a sign from God, bro. All right. So Group B, Mexico, Ecuador, Venezuela, and Jamaica. I think this is probably one of the more interesting groups just because it's a very open group. Anything can happen. I will say Mexico, I feel, has a slight advantage because we are talking about playing here in the United States, and it's a home field advantage. They have more of a home field advantage here in the U.S. than the U.S. team has. And one thing, Mexico travels very well, and you're just going to tell them to go just up north. I mean, easy day for them, especially if you're a rich Mexican. So I actually have Mexico winning the group. I think Ecuador is going to be a challenge for them, but I think that they should be able to compete well with Venezuela and Jamaica. Once again, there's familiarity. I think there might be, sorry, Jose, some shystiness that might happen in that Jamaica game, which I'm not going to be against if that happens. The Ecuador match, I will say, will be the deciding factor. I think they're going to beat Venezuela and Jamaica. They might draw with Ecuador, but I think by goal differential can put them up top at first. And my second is Ecuador.
I would love that, bro. Like, I would love to be proven wrong. I would love for Mexico to get out of the group. Obviously, for my own family's sake, I would love for Mexico to get out of the group. This team is so up and down, bro. I mean, they very well could. It'll be by the skin of their teeth, like you just said, right? Like goal differential, something along those lines. I'll be honest. I really think I'm gonna go alphabetical order here. I think it's gonna be Ecuador and Jamaica, in my opinion. Nothing against Venezuela. I think they could. They definitely could show up. And kind of prove me wrong. To be fair, I don't know that much about Venezuela. I'll hold my hands up and say that I'm not as familiar with what they've done. Some of the recent results they've had. I'm very familiar with the other three teams, so I'm very confident on kind of what I know about them. I think Jamaica and Mexico will be very close when they play each other. I think there'll be some feistiness to that game. It'll be a little more physical than the other group stage games will be for Mexico. And that one's a wild card. It could be a toss up, right? Vintage. Mexico could show up, or we could see the exact same version of Mexico that we saw against Uruguay show up. It really depends. But I'm going to back Jamaica just because I feel like other fans won't. And I think that is a chip that Jamaica will gladly carry on their shoulder as they go in there and try to pull off upsets like they've done in Gold Cups and previous tournaments past. So I think Ecuador is the best team in this group, and I'm just going to simply, out of recent form, back Jamaica over Mexico. Just my unbiased, logical side of me talking. Now, who do I want to go through? God, I hope Mexico goes through. I can't take any more meltdowns, man. I can't deal with the million group chats I'm a part of with family freaking out over the latest Mexico loss. I don't need that shit in my life anymore.
I mean, for the sanctity of Caparra football. I mean,
bro. I can only imagine what happens in those offices, bro. And when people actually when these losses come through, I mean, it's a mad scramble on the timeline. I'll say that. And I just turned social media off when it happened. Like this past game, I was watching it. I watched the whole 4-0, but I didn't even look at my phone. I was like, I don't even care what everybody's saying. I really think it's going to be Ecuador and Jamaica, but happy to be proven wrong.
Yeah, I don't dislike the Jamaica pick for sure. I do like the Reggae Boys as a kind of sneaky pick in this. They're a very sneaky pick in the betting odds in this. They're, by the way, they're third lowest in opportunities to get like anything in this tournament. But for me, I'm gonna stick with your 1 seed. I'm going Ecuador as well. I think that's a really safe pick. The rest of this group might be the group of disappointment. If we've had a group of death, it might be the group of disappointment for the other three. And no hate to Jamaica, no hate to Mexico, no hate to Venezuela, just kind of how it is. With that in mind, I think it's going to come down to that Mexico and Jamaica game. And if it doesn't go well for either team, I think that leaves an opportunity for Venezuela to sneak in. And that's where I'm going with this. I'm going that 2 seed being Venezuela. So
nice.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So Ecuador, regardless, is getting, apparently everyone believes in Ecuador. Yeah. But the second team is just the contradiction.
Yeah.
But all right. It's good. Different opinions. That's what matters. You guys are all stupid.
It looks like we're all going to be making food videos soon.
Yeah, maybe. Which I'm totally down for, by the way. I won't hate on that at all.
Look, I do love me some what are those the fair foods. So
hell yeah, yeah, I'm down for that.
Give me some funnel cake.
Yes, funnel cake fries. All right,
I'm down for that. I'm totally down for that.
So Group C, we have USA, Uruguay, Panama, and Bolivia. It's Uruguay. Uruguay's going to finish in first. I think they're clearly the best team in this group. USA, if you cannot beat Bolivia and get a result out of Panama, because the last match is Uruguay. So I'm gonna guess that by that point Uruguay has already won the group, and hopefully they're not all in. This is gonna be the most US thing ever. You beat Bolivia, you probably draw against Panama, and you're probably gonna draw against Uruguay, but somehow still make it out the group. So that's where I'm going with. It's gonna be Uruguay and USA moving on some bullshit. So
yeah, it may be, and it would be. I mean, World Cups included, like it's the most US thing ever to just finish 1-1-1 and go in on goal differential. I'm gonna say Uruguay and US. I will say this, like as bad as Berhalter was with the motivation for the players going into the Colombia match, with setting the right expectation against CONMEBOL teams in general. Hopefully that match against Colombia was a massive wake-up call, because I think that this is going to be the Copa America for the U.S. could arguably be more difficult than the 2026 World Cup will be for them. Just because CONMEBOL teams are different, bro. South America, there's no such thing as a friendly ever. It's not how it goes down there. Like, you need to be ready to like die on that field against these teams, or they will completely wipe the floor with you. And they have experience, even if it's in the Gold Cup against Panama. I don't expect, and that, it was people will say it was a B team version of US that lost to Panama. Either way, an L's an L. It will be one that they'll be wary of, but they should beat Bolivia here in Dallas when they play that first game, that opening game. So I'm going to back Uruguay to be the clear and sole, top of the group. And to me, it should be a clear-cut US second. It should be on paper. Like, it shouldn't even be like a goal differential thing. It should be US come in. They might even lose to Uruguay, but they should win the other two matchups, in my opinion. Like, if they struggle against Panama, it's wraps. It's GG's. Like, I'm not even worried about what happens to the US after that game. I think it's done. I don't see them having the mentality to make a deep run in the knockouts at that point.
Yep.
Yeah. My interest in this tournament might end after game one, is what I just heard. So thank you for that so much, Jose. It gives me so much faith. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't have much faith to begin with. It's Greg Berhalter we're talking about.
Fair.
Despite all that, here's my number one is the U.S. And the big reason why is I do think they'll get two wins out of the first two games. I do think they can pull that off, even if it's ugly as, I don't know, whatever you can come up with. Imagine, just whatever the worst imagination is. That'll be what happens here. Uruguay as well. Easily get 2 wins. There's nobody they have to compete with in that third game. Uruguay is going to just mill it in. They're not trying to get anybody injured. Anybody we just talked about, Valverde or Darwin. Nobody's going to be trying to get injured in that match. The U.S. on the other hand is trying to prove a point, sneak a goal, sneak a win that way. That's the only way they're going to end up with the 1 seed. So I'm just going to roll with it, because why not at this point in time? I mean, my other career is calling me, so we can go to that eventually with the food videos. So, but no, I'm going to go U.S. versus Uruguay. I'm just going to keep that theme running if you guys haven't figured that out throughout the entire time, because at this point in time, you can just clip all these and send it to the guy as a
Kelcey's
reply.
food reviews.
Yeah,
hell yeah.
Food reviews and a random pick. Here you go.
All right. The final Group D. All right, we have Brazil, Colombia, Paraguay, and Costa Rica. Which this is basically, I'm sorry, Paraguay, and I'm sorry, Costa Rica, that you have to be in this group, because
Tough.
it is. I honestly will say I think it's going to be Colombia winning the group and Brazil coming out in second. I think that there's. And I know it's crazy to say that after a 3-2 win against Mexico, which honestly is a big for Brazil, because like Jose mentioned, they don't particularly play very well against Mexico. But I don't know, man. I think this Colombia team is just different. There's something special about this team. A lot of quality players that are coming out in Colombia. This probably, I'm not going to say golden generation, but a very interesting generation of players that are coming out from Colombia. And, another country that you're hoping to see some success as well. So I think Colombia can do it, get a result against Brazil, even if it's a draw. And I think that they win Group D and Brazil comes out in second, which, I mean, could be a good thing for them, or not. It can't be. Probably not.
Yeah. No, I like that one. I'm gonna steal this one before Jose gets a chance to steal it from me. So I'm gonna go Brazil with the top of the group, and it's gonna come down for me just like the last game of this group stage, Brazil versus Colombia. And the biggest reason why I have Brazil taking it out is they don't leave California except for one game in the group stages, and when they leave, they go to Vegas. I don't think there's an easier schedule as far as stadium travel goes than what Brazil has, and that in mind, they might also have the best second unit out there that can just roll out a second 11 that is still world-class level talent. And Colombia, even in the last match, even if they have nothing to play for, is going to be still rolling out their best team. But Brazil's number 2s are still better for the most part across the board. So I'm going to have Brazil taking this one, and Colombia, they're going to take my second as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting, man. I think so. I'm very torn. Obviously, I'm also leaning to the Brazil Colombia. Who gets first? Who gets second? I think the first game. I kind of meant what I said. I think Paraguay is not going to be as easy for Colombia for whatever reason as a lot of fans think it will be. I think it's going to be tricky. It's also going to be don't forget, right, in the late June in Houston, Texas. I can only imagine how hot and humid it's going to be. It's going to be a war of attrition, I think, out in the pitch. To me, Colombia's better built for it with just what we've seen. I feel like Colombia is a team that, right now anyway, a good generation of talent, but also a generation of talent that's very bought into how they play. Those guys are honestly workhorses, man. Like just the how fast they play for a full 90. And they just keep coming at you. They keep pressing. They keep countering. Keep throwing transitions at you. It's exhausting. You throw in.
Whole Foods cart. What else would you like from Whole Foods?
What the hell happened? Alexa off.
But that was awesome. But you throw in just like the sheer just mentality of this team. Also seeing James Rodriguez on the pitch, old school vibes a little bit for those who've been following this national team for quite some time. I don't know. I feel like the vibes are kind of high with Colombia right now, just with where they are, and Brazil's a little bit more of a question mark for me. So it's close, but I think Colombia will edge it out. And I think Brazil, if they get second, it won't be the end of the world. A lot of fans down there will probably think it is because just based on the expectation and the world-class talent that they have. But they can still make a deep run finishing second. It's going to be trickier for sure.
Especially if they match up with Uruguay.
Yeah, that'll be a game where they have to just treat it as if it were the Copa America final because there's just dealing with that team. I can only imagine, right, what it's like with all of those players coming at you and with how impressive Uruguay have been in the last like 12 to 18 months. So yeah, I mean it'll still be tough for them, but I still think that they're capable of making a run even if they finish second.
All right, before we end this Copa America group stage preview, every one of us have to pick a favorite to win this tournament. It could be the same, obviously. It's fine. So we'll start things with Jose. Who is your favorite to win Copa America?
Man, give me Uruguay. I think we're still, for whatever reason, still just maybe scratching the surface on what this team is fully capable of in a tournament setting. I also really back Marcelo Bielsa. I think as a manager, I don't know if he makes sense for like a club, a traditional club, just because, tournament managers, we've seen it with Mourinho over the last, like, I don't know how many years. Like, the tactics and how they set up aren't necessarily the best for a 38-game season, but you give that man a small window in a tournament to motivate a group of highly talented players to go out there and just win by any means possible. I put Bielsa in that category. I think that he can do a lot with this group of players, and it just helps that this group of talented players are insane on paper. When you think about just how many game changers they have, everyone from Darwin to Araujo to Fedi to even Pellistri. Man, Pellistri looked like he had been balling for Uruguay for years against Mexico. Granted, it was Mexico, but with where they are right now. But still, I back this team. If they come out swinging and completely sweep the group, 9 points, not even close to U.S. on goal differential, I think that everyone else in this tournament's in for a long day.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick there. As I said earlier, I think they were one of my favorites to begin with, even for dark horses. So, but I'm not going to go with them as my favorite to win the tournament. And I think the big reason why being obviously the mentality we talked about. And while it's gotten better for a lot of Uruguayan players, but Darwin at the front of that as the peak, if you will, the tip of the spear, trying to score. If he's not on, even just for one game, that changes their entire fortune. With that in mind, as I just said in Brazil, though, you got 22 plus players in that team that you can literally start on probably every roster in this entire tournament. And I'm going to go with Brazil. I think they're my favorite. I don't think there's ever been a tournament where Brazil walks into and they're not a top 3 favorite for real. And this is another one where I look at it and it's like Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, kind of toss up between the 3. And it all comes down to matchups where they end up at. If they win their group and they don't have to get matched up with Uruguay first round, I think it's even easier for them. But if they do get matched up with Uruguay, then obviously that's going to be the big test. But then after that, it's kind of smooth sailing till the finals, if you will. I mean, everybody they'd face until then would be not a Group A team, and so namely Argentina. Basically, is what I'm saying.
Random question, like how insane would it be if this was the one like top 20, top 15 matchup that Berhalter does win. They get second in the group. He lines up against that star-studded Brazil team and just like finds a way to shithouse a 2-1 win or a 1-0 win. Like what
This
would
would
happen?
definitely like I would say if Berhalter, which I don't see this happening, but if Berhalter somehow, and I would honestly say this would happen despite Berhalter. I would think the players will become the big factors that come into they might have to be like, look, man, let's just let him yell, but we're gonna play how we think we should be playing. Maybe that's the day where they just lock him up in the locker room and let BJ Callahan call this match before
they go full varsity blues, like just yell at him in the locker room. He storms out by himself and they go out there and win. That'd be fucking hilarious.
Please sign me up for every moment of that.
I want the documentary.
Yeah.
But if that happens, I think that tops the Spain upset instantly.
Yeah, fair enough. I was going to call back to the Confederations Cup again, and that long run where they beat Brazil and ended up getting to Spain. But yeah, it's
that's right. They beat Brazil.
Beat Brazil to get defeated by Spain in the Confeds Cup. But yeah,
I remember.
Wait. What year was that? 09?
2009. Yeah.
Yeah. Before the 2010.
I think they beat Spain to get to Brazil.
Spain, then it got,
and then they
got shellacked.
They got costed. They were up like 2-0 and then they choked it. US lost 3-2. And that honestly, bro, that is the most like US shithousery result to like summarize this team to an extent. Like, I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to get depressed
that's the exact same vibes I get there, though. They beat a team they shouldn't beat, just get wiped off the face of the planet in the next round.
Yeah,
and a not great Brazilian team back then too. Like, I mean, not that they're by Brazil's standards, not the greatest Brazilian team they could have played in that final, and they still found a way to choke a 2-0 lead. So, yeah.
Yep.
All right. So obviously, Kelcey picks Brazil. Jose picks Uruguay. My favorite, honestly, is it could go either way, and don't be distracted by the jersey. It was just a coincidence. But and also the Di Maria jersey before anybody says, "Oh, he's got a Messi jersey on." Number 7, Di Maria. But that's not the point. But my favorite is actually going to be Uruguay. I think this team, its core is amazing. I think. You mentioned the maturity, at least the game maturity, not saying maturity of Darwin Nunez, but the game maturity of Darwin Nunez may not be there where we want it to be yet. The kid is so raw, and it's crazy to think, like we said plenty of times, once it finally just clicks onto him, he is going to be the nastiest player. And I mean, at that point, we're done talking about Holland, at least for a while. Obviously, I'm sure there's certain, what was it, Keane? They called him a League 2 player. But yeah, Darwin Nunez, I think, but the thing is, I think his core players that he has, his midfield, his back line, I think it allows him to make those mistakes because of how well they are forming. And they just know, all I got to do is put him in the right place, and he'll put in the back of the net. Obviously, praise to Bielsa as well. I think he's the right guy in charge of this team. But it's time that we see some success from Uruguay. And obviously, I would just – where does Valverde land when it comes to the Ballon d'Or discussion will be hilarious. I don't think he's near it, but it's going to be a discussion that someone's going to throw up. Like I said, I think my favorite to win the Ballon d'Or is Vinny. I don't think anybody can change my mind. You can guys call me that one guy that goes to college to campuses and try to tell me to change my mind. But Vinny is winning. Vinny is going to win the Ballon d'Or. And
if Brazil wins it, he'll definitely win it. Like if he's impactful, of course, because if they get far and they go on to win it,
you know what? Jersey bet. Jersey bet.
Oh, God.
If Vinicius Jr. does not get the Ballon d'Or, I will do a jersey giveaway. Jesus Christ, what am I doing?
Well, look, I do have blank space right here over my shoulder. I could use a jersey. That's all I'm saying.
Same, bro. Same.
Give me the Darwin number 9.
Hey, bro, low key, I will gladly take. I'm trying to think who here. Give me a Caicedo Ecuador or Estupiñán Ecuador. I'll take either one of those. But yeah, bro, I think if Brazil wins it, Vinny is got to be the front runner. His only competition right now is Jude, and I think Jude and England are under massive pressure. It's not a Euros episode, but a massive pressure to win that tournament. Imagine they both win, and then like we're back to square fucking one. I don't see England winning the Euros. I don't see Brazil winning the Copa, but crazier shit has happened. So I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I think Valverde loses out just on the pure fact of statistics. I think that's where everybody's going to overlook him purely on that. And yeah, Vinny has it all. Jude, obviously, we all know the impact of him. And I think that might be the only reason Jude might get it is because he came over from another team to do this versus Vinny. Well, he's been at Real Madrid waiting for a breakout year for what now, 3 years, 4 years. So finally gets that super breakout year. And unfortunately, his own teammate was a superstar transfer in his first year.
Yeah, true. I don't think anybody saw Jude having that kind of year. But I also think too, if Eddie was going to be in it, the conversation, I think last year was actually more impactful for Madrid. I think what he did, and then if Copa America just on some weird wavelength was also happening last season with the form he was in, he'd probably be in that discussion. Like he really would fit. And Petty was, I think he was quiet this year. It's just that Toni Kroos kind of stepped back up in a weird way. Modric is Modric, right? But the midfield itself with Madrid just had other major talking points that didn't surround Valverde. So I think he's a phenomenal player, a world-class player. I just think they have so many of those players at Real Madrid that he kind of gets overshadowed a little bit. But
exactly.
Vinny, this needs to be his legacy tournament. With the year he's had and the running he's in now for the Ballon d'Or, I think he absolutely has to have that chip on his shoulder. And bro, he brought the hair out. I mean, shit, he brought the hair out. He's waiting to, I don't know, whip it on some people maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But one point about Uruguay that we didn't talk about either was, bro, isn't it crazy that Mexico could have had Bielsa? Isn't that wild to think?
Isn't it crazy that the U.S. could have had anybody? Anybody?
I don't think U.S. ever planned to grab anybody. I'll be honest. I think that they put on a good show for the whole world and just already knew they were going to bring Berhalter
just spend
back.
millions of dollars on a search committee. But
the U.S. Soccer Federation having a plan to not change anything after being told they were going to change something. No chance. No chance.
Trust, bro. They just wanted to wait until the Gio Reyna shit calmed down, and they're like, "All right, cool, Greg, go do your thing."
If Mexico's reasoning behind not getting Bielsa was because they were like, "Oh no, I don't want to deal with another Argentinian,"
I think so. I think the fans also wanted that. They were like, "Nah, Tata fucking ruined this team because he doesn't care about Mexico." Like, I'm like, bro, the Argentina Mexico rivalry does not run that deep. It wouldn't be like hiring a former U.S. Soccer Federation manager. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of wild. But
depends on which manager, because they might take him in a heartbeat if it's the right one.
Let's be honest, what Mexico really wants to see is Piojo. That's what it is.
True. I don't know, man. Mexico has a lot of shit to figure out. But I remember hearing that Bielsa was like in consideration, that ultimately they decided to pass on him. And now look at Uruguay. And I'm not saying Uruguay solely where they are because of Bielsa, but it's like I think he is a tried and true tournament manager. Like he really is, man. And I got a feeling they're gonna turn a lot of heads this summer.
Yeah. So summer of soccer is gonna be fun. June 20th kicks off Copa America, where we're gonna see Argentina just have the live execution of Canada. What a way to kick off this tournament.
Imagine Jesse Marsh masterclass. It'd be kind of crazy.
That would be insane.
Messi coming off a travel day potentially. Granted, it's in Atlanta, so I don't think it's that going to be that bad. But you never know. Messi coming off a travel day from the MLS a week and a half beforehand.
You know damn well that boy is not going to play.
He's not going to play in Canada, and then he's going to play in the next 2 games against Chile and Peru. That's crazy to think.
But so June 20th, Copa America. Get ready, man. I'm super excited. I can't wait to see how this tournament progresses on, man. But Kelcey, Jose, thank you so much. Kelcey, this is your time to shine. Go ahead and tell the people where they can find you.
You cannot find my food reviews online yet. We haven't gotten to that point yet. But you can find the rest of my content over at High-Low Sports or at high_low_sports on Twitter. I guess now it's X. And then we are live every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time on all our social medias. And then you can catch the video replay and audio replay the next morning on Thursday at 8 a.m., whether it be on YouTube or on any one of the platforms you catch audio.
Nice. Jose, you got to tell people what's going on over there at GolzTV.
Hell yeah, bro. Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet. GolzTV, guys, got a lot of new content coming, whether you're watching TST right now, the soccer tournament over in North Carolina, or you're tuning into Copa America and Euros. I know on our YouTube channel, GolzTV's YouTube channel, we're gonna do everything from live watch-alongs to predictions, betting, and fantasy content, all for the Euros and for the Copa. So if you guys loved this preview that we did for Insert Name FC, guys, go check it out on our YouTube channel. Again, GolzTV is the YouTube channel. A lot of stuff coming, a massive summer of footy. And outside of that, if you want to find Insert Name FC or any shows like them, head over to golz.tv, GOLZ.tv, create an account, subscribe, and keep tuning in. I appreciate it.
All right.